Coach Robb Beams, the legend himself, the smartest man I know. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, good morning. Thank you for that intro. That's quite a compliment coming from someone like yourself with all the people that you know.
I appreciate that, but no, I know when it comes to intelligence and things, you got me covered. And yeah, like I say, when me and Hopper do our stuff, we're aware of who the smartest man in the room is. It's always you.
No, I don't know
Uh,
about that one.
so what I wanted to do today is, we've been telling people on the Cooksey podcast about your program. I just wanted to take a little bit more time than the 20 or 30 seconds I do in the episode and just break down what it is. So tell me a little bit about your program, Coach.
For the sake of all the listeners, I want to be the ultimate resource to, pardon me, anyone that hears or watches your show. Complete Racing Solutions is really geared around being the ultimate resource for any and every frustration that we all have. One of the things that I'm always looking at, pardon me, is what are the areas of frustration that all of us run into? And that could be nutrition, it could be injuries, it could be weight loss. We might want to be a little bit faster, maybe have a little bit better endurance. What's been so great about the internet over the years is that it's really changed the dynamics of how we can get information conveyed. If you go to our Complete Racing Solutions website, I have digital bundles on weight loss, nutrition. If you hit your head, I've got nutritional bundles for concussion. If you've broken your arm, we have nutritional bundles for broken bone surgery. It's not to try to give a sales pitch on what is available as much as it is making sure that all of your listeners knows what we have available should they ever need them, because we're not out here trying to peddle a bunch of products. Every single video we've ever put together, every single product that we've ever produced is nothing more than the feedback from our followers. And that's what I hope the listeners, you've done a phenomenal job. The Cooksey mob, I love that mantra, and watching the numbers grow has been very, very impressive. And what I'm hoping is, I love being a supporter of the show. I love everything that you're doing. And I want to make sure that those that are loyal to you, they recognize that we're just constantly trying to add more and more features to make their life easier, to go faster, ride longer, and just enjoy themselves. I mean, that's the name of the game. That's what draws us all to this, right? Is our love of riding, whatever that would be, fast and short, long and slow. Doesn't matter. We all like to ride.
So if I'm listening to the podcast, I go, man, I really want to join one of Rob's programs. What programs are available for them?
We have essentially two programs and they're very broad spectrum. If you're looking for something that's 100% customized, this is very popular amongst the vet division, because I like to really work with how much time does an athlete have to balance family and a job, getting to and from a track. Some are fortunate enough, they have their own tracks on their own property. But when you're trying to figure out, okay, I've got literally 91 minutes, 2 days a week to train, what should I do? And we put together an extremely customized program for them. And then the other end of the spectrum is for people. We created what's called the Complete Racing Solutions membership area, and we have it partitioned off into three sections. We have the individual that's fortunate enough to ride 3 or 5+ times per week. You have the ones that can only ride on the weekend. And we even have a general fitness division for people who just can't ride anymore based on logistics or injuries or whatever circumstances. When you join the membership area, and I don't want this to sound arrogant, people have a lot of questions and they're usually very individualized. I hate to use an injury, but think about it. We talk about it in our staff meetings. I can't do a frequently asked questions portion on our website because someone will email me and go, I got a spiral fracture, tib fib. It's now infected. What do I do? How do you FAQ that? So, with that being said, I do 2 live webinars a month as part of that membership area. And you can come in and ask any question that you want. I always try to put a nugget of conversation in the webinars. Last week, we just shot our 58th live webinar. And over those 58 different webinars, we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about injury, we've talked about the mental aspects of performance. Everything that's relevant to what we say in our offices is health, wellness, and ultimately performance. And that's what we do in our webinars. I want to make myself available to as many people as possible because your questions matter. And I know that sounds a little bit hokey, but it's true. And I love it. Our membership numbers continue to grow. We do have some people that drop out because of logistics and stuff like that. But for the most part, it continues to grow and grow. And I'd love to make sure that the Cooksey mob's aware of it. We're here to help it anyway,
Yeah,
always.
bigger or not. I always say bigger, but that's just like the old weightlifting thing. But no, stronger, faster, more durable. That's kind of what we
Absolutely.
got, right?
Absolutely. And I do appreciate when you give me a shout out on the show because we, even though in our membership area, yes, I write programs that, you finish phase one, you gradually naturally move on to phase two. But if you think about it, we designed it so let's say that you start the membership and you can only ride on the weekends. Well, you do what we call our weekend warrior program, cross train during the week, ride on the weekends. All of a sudden your job situation changes and you can ride 3 or 4 times a week. Well, then you can move up to the full time program because at the end of the week, what we don't want to do is boring bunch of physiology here, but what we evaluate is residual fatigue. How does the body break down from Monday to Sunday? So if you do get a chance to go ride, we want to make sure that we're not pushing the body too far or too hard, which then leaves you flat when you're on the motorcycle. You don't improve, the risk of injury goes up. So that's what we try to do is say, okay, how do we block out a 7 day period so that you can get the most on and off the bike? How does that 1 week fit into a 6 week block? And we refer to that as a phase. And as you get those phases done, you can naturally move on to phase two. I had a great conversation with a member last week, and he said, the way that my work schedule is, I can't complete everything that you have outlined on a 7 day period, but I can get it done in 10. So great. Do it at your own pace. And that is exactly what it's all about. If you can, if you're very structured and you like being able to follow phase one, you get done with that, you move to phase two. But what we do along the way is we just don't have a bunch of training programs out there. We have some benchmarks for you to be able to evaluate. Are you getting stronger? Are you getting fitter? Are you getting faster? Do you have better endurance? And we do all, rather, we do a lot of different things so that the people who are in membership aren't just kind of lost in this area called membership. There's a constant integration. They have their own email address to be able to communicate with me and my staff. So you're not left in that email vortex. Just try to make it user friendly, and it's inexpensive. It's $22 a month if you go month to month. It's $180 if you buy it by the year. And we've been very fortunate. I mean, we were able to get Sophia Phelps. Thanks to your lead there. So we have females, we have vet riders, we have 65 riders. One of the kids that we actually just brought up, Chase DeShell, he was actually one of our members, and he ended up doing quite well at Loretta's, picked up a win, and he had been on our radar. I didn't even know he was a member because he registered under his mom, or
Oh,
his mom registered, and we had been looking at him and his results and wanted to put him on our elite development team. And we met at Loretta's, and he introduced himself and said, "I want to thank you. This program allowed me to be able to win Loretta's." And I said, "Well, that's ironic because we were going to offer you a position on our elite team." That's what it's all about. So we want people to understand weekend warriors, somebody like Chase that really wants to win Loretta's, somebody that races enduro. We have some flat track guys that are in there as well, believe it or not, even some road racers. So it's not just moto related. If it's anything on two wheels, it's in there for you. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense on what's available.
no, that's awesome, Coach. And then I'm sure the listeners will definitely appreciate the clarification. And yeah, for people who are serious about getting in shape, I'm sure they'll go check it out.
Well, and I like the word serious because I want to have fun when we do it. But when we say serious, we look at serious results because we're not here to try to blow smoke up your skirt. We're just going to teach you about the physiology. We're going to teach you about nutrition, how to integrate them. I have nothing to sell you because I didn't create nutrition and I didn't create physiology. But what I do want to do is disrupt all the misinformation that's floating around out there because Lord knows with internet, everybody's an expert now. And as you and I tease over and over again, I've had a couple 250Fs and I've read my manuals, but there's no team that should hire me as a factory mechanic. And I hope that the listeners recognize, even though an ex-pro may have become a riding coach, that doesn't make him a physiologist. And I have no disrespect to anybody that's out there. The riding coaches that are out there are great. I think they need to stay in their lane, though, a little bit tighter, in my opinion. And so that's my goal, is to get the mission out, to get the word out there by just educating people on how do you integrate what your riding coach is asking you to do off the bike, so that the riding sessions with your coach becomes that much more productive. Not here to step on anyone's toes, but I definitely want to compliment what's available out there, because there's a lot of really good riding coaches, especially if you go to that USMCA. They've done a great job of screening the coaches. And obviously I am one, and all of our coaches that we work with under our umbrella, they're also USMCA certified. So very important that we integrate the two together, the fitness, the nutrition, the mental headspace with what the riding coach is teaching. So hopefully that makes sense to both the coaches as well as the parents and the riders themselves.
Yeah. And before I let you go, I want to remind people, you didn't do just some sort of little 18-month program. You've been through years and years of education to learn this stuff. What were your degrees in?
Well, I'm always a little bit gun shy on this. So I've been doing this for 35 years. I've got a degree in exercise physiology. I've got a massage therapy background. I've got a nutritional background, and I've studied sports psychology quite a bit at a neuroscience level. So that, plus my own experience racing, I love, people like to take jabs at me that I haven't raced motocross in, 15, 20 years. Well, that's because I've been building businesses and raising a family, and logistically it just didn't work out. But I've been entrenched in moto since 1978. So I've grown up. I was very fortunate. I picked up Bob Hanna's 1981 YZ125 after Daytona. That was a real eye opener for myself. But I'm adopted into a big family. So when I was racing motocross, my dad segued us over into BMX. So then I took BMX, raced it for several years, turned pro, got 8th in the world, and then had actually planned on moving to California and racing BMX full time. And then my dad actually, Nick said, that sent me off to college. And while I was in college, my roommate was training for Ironman New Zealand. So I got into triathlons, and then I got accepted as a junior development athlete in the sport of triathlon, learned a boatload while I was there, but then unfortunately got hit by a car and was no longer eligible for the team. So the things that I bring to the table, like I was teasing earlier, it's not my brainchild. I just try to share all the knowledge that I've gained over the years, whether it's in textbook or personal experience or being a tested athlete. I constantly am studying for the sake of all my athletes. I'm very fortunate. I own 5 amateur development teams around the world now. And the idea is that we want to truly build an elite development program in the sport of motocross and off-road racing, because our sport has never had it. And it's our goal to make that a reality. I don't like to complain about things. When I see there's a need for something, I try to go after it. And this will be our 14th year having our actual elite development team. So we've got a motocross and an off-road team here in the States. We have one in the UK. We have 2 in Australia, and we're developing one in New Zealand as we speak. So that's why you'll see me. I'll be in Australia and New Zealand January, February, and March. And our purpose for going there is to teach performance camps. We're going to be working with Craig Anderson when we're over there, if you remember Craig. Oh, yeah. Todd Waters. There's quite a few very good riding coaches over there that we're going to be working with. But the point is bringing that knowledge, being able to work with riding coaches that want to work in conjunction with us. Like I said, we're not here to get into a sandbox fight. I'm only here to complement what the riding coaches want. So there's a lot of experience, but I don't ever want that to be intimidating. You and I have teased about this. I get hit up all the time. Well, who'd you work with? Well, I've worked with Dungy, and I've worked with AC, and I've worked with the Martin brothers, and I've worked with Jordan Bailey and Ian Treadle and Ashley Feilich and Brock Tickle. I can go back as far as you want. But then they say, oh, we only work with pros. Well, no, you just asked me who I've worked with. But if you're asking me what we're capable of, the lion's share of our business is amateurs. Whether it's 65s, 85s, 125s, vet riders, off-road, moto, supermoto, flat track, road racing, we're very blessed. We're in all those in the two-wheeled world. Well, I guarantee that I can bring fitness and nutrition down and make it applicable to anybody who's listening.
That's what I like so much about the program is it is for everybody. Like, depending on what your goals are, you take a look at the goals and you can analyze it, and you just give me a scientific way. You're not just at the gym telling me work harder, work harder. You're looking at it and not breaking people down. And we have an epidemic of kids being broken down by overwork, because anyone could just say, do more, but that doesn't necessarily build you stronger and better. You have to balance that. And that's what I love about what you're doing, Coach. And I think you're doing the sport a service by doing this. And awesome, man. I really appreciate your time. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
Well, you just hit a big nerve with me, and that is I want everybody to stop and think about the attrition rate of the racing at the pro level. Look at Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, Addison's disease. As I mentioned those words, all the listeners can go, yep, I remember when rider X, Y, and Z was diagnosed with it. Here's what pisses me off. I started an entire division called Garmin Analytics. I use the Garmin platform. You're on it, Hopper's on it. We've got an entire division now that does nothing but take the listeners' information. We'll sit and we'll do a consultation call. We'll go through your dashboard. We'll go through your information because of just exactly what you said. Blood-related fatigue diseases can be 100% avoidable if people are willing to listen. And that's what irritates me about people who are outside their wheelhouse making suggestions that are literally ruining the health of our riders. And that's disgusting to me. It's very, very disheartening. So to your point exactly, the Garmin Analytics, we didn't do it just because I wanted to talk about Garmin. People started using it. The resource is phenomenal, but I want the listeners to understand just with a few little resources, we can just open up so much for you. And I don't want that to sound hokey and fluffy, but like you said, I want to break through the misinformation that's floating around out there and get people to understand the definition of overtraining is not how much you do, but what you can absorb. You and I have talked about this with John, with Hopper. Our biggest thing is I could take 3 athletes and they have different abilities, how much they sleep, how much they eat, what kind of recovery protocols, how serious they take this other stuff. And we could do an entire show on just that. I'll stop there. But when you talk about fatigue and people getting ruined, how many of our listeners are exhausted? How many of our listeners can't sleep at night? How many of our listeners can't drop body fat? There's a very simple reason why. Now, I'm not saying we could answer it right here, but with just a little bit of research, using the watch, looking at some blood, we just started a new blood evaluation company, and it's called Complete Med Solutions. And all we're doing is we're looking at the profile of blood and looking at it in the realm of health. When you go to the doctor, not only does it take us 6 months to get into the doctor, but most people are looking at it just based on the health of the blood, based on what? Somebody that's, think about yourself, Chris, as much as you ride, as much as you cross train, and then someone's going to be comparing your blood work to someone who's relatively sedentary and has bad eating habits. Why would you be compared to the same panel of blood? So that's a new service that we're going to be rolling out in December for that exact reason. Let's look at your blood. It's a snapshot of the integrity of your health and if what you're doing is working, food and exercise wise. I mean, again, we could just go on, but the science behind performance is not just our punchline. It's what we live and die by. And I want your listeners to be aware of that for their own health and for themselves or their family or children, whoever it may be. So I appreciate you giving me a chance to talk about it. I really love it. And I love the listeners. I love reading the comments that people put underneath your shows. So props to you and keep it up, and props to the entire Cooksey Mafia. I love it.
Well, and I'll give those guys credit. Like, I have some really cool listeners that always chime in, and like, it used to be when I first started this, I would cringe to go to the comments because it just seemed like everyone just bashed you. But we've kind of weeded those guys out, and now we have a lot of people who genuinely just like to. They know that if they give me a real question, I'm going to give them a real answer, and vice versa. And man, it's created some good dialogue, and I've learned a lot from the Cooksey mob. So
absolutely.
Anyway, Coach, thank you so much for your time. I love having you on board the show. I love having you as a friend.
Appreciate it, brother.
So anything else before I let you go?
Nope. Just thanks for all the listeners for watching this show, supporting all of Cooksey's videos. And we look forward to being in front of you guys again soon and hopefully getting a chance to work with you sometime.
You got it, brother. All right, man.
Take care.
Later.
Peace.